If you haven't already done so, please click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. Thanks.
Alright, looks like our RTX A6000 has arrived. I am opening it from the bottom of it because I have address information and so forth on the shipping label, so I don't really think that's something appropriate to show, either my address or the address of the individual who shipped me the card. But let me get this thing out of the box here. Partly why I want to record the unboxing too is in case this person has actually sent me the wrong thing. Best to document the entire experience. As we know, eBay is pretty good about protecting the buyer, but still good to document opening of a new product like this. Not an amazing packaging job, but not horrible. It's supposed to be brand new in the box. It does appear to be still, it looks factory sealed. It doesn't really look like that's ever been opened. Can't see any indication that it has been. This should be a PNY RTX A6000. Not really, okay, let's see, we've got, just says RTX A6000 on the box. Good sign. But there are a lot of similar cards in this vein from NVIDIA. There's the A4000, the A4500, the A5000, and the A6000. So, you know, could be easily placing one card in a different box. This is a little awkward to do with one hand here, guys. Sorry. Alright. Well, again, looks pretty well packaged. Doesn't really look like anybody ever took it out and did anything with it, does it? So, the card just comes with, this is a 2 8-pin PCI Express power connector down to a 8-pin adapter. This is the, I think that's 8 pins. Yeah, sorry. I was going to say, like, some of the, like the Found Edition 3090, for example, has got 12-pin on it. But if this is like the Tesla, like I had a Tesla K, I think it was K80 or something for a short while, they have like their own proprietary power plug. It's like the pins, the same number of count, but they're shaped differently. I don't really understand the purpose of that, but whatever. Different power delivery. So, well, it looks like the right card. Pretty heavy. Pretty beefy. Let's, yeah, there it is, RTX A6000. Should be hunky-dory. Give me a second here, I'm going to get out of the plastic bag. I'm working with, holding the phone with two hands here. I want to get this thing up and running today and see how it compares to my 3090. Yeah, it certainly looks new. I mean, it's still got the plastic on there, which you probably wouldn't want to use the card with that still installed. We've got, what we asked for, an A6000. These do support NVLink, so you can do up to 2 cards just like they can with the 3090s, and they use the same style of bridge. So if I ever do get a second card, as long as I can get a 3-slot bridge, which those are, I mean, you can find those on eBay, but they're like $200 to $300 because, again, it's just another thing that's being sort of scalped or overpriced or whatever. Then they have their stereo sync. I actually don't know what this does specifically. I'll try to find out more about how that works. I know it's a quadro feature that's somehow different from NVLink, so I'll have to look into that more with a little bit more information. But it does support their stereo sync functionality, whatever the hell that means. Again, I should probably look up more information about the card really before I do a review on it, but I know more than enough about it to utilize it properly. We've got our, like I say, our 8-pin kind of proprietary power connection on this one. That's what we'll hook up our adapter to, because it won't run directly off the power supply. Got the kind of standard blower fan design. It's really heavy. Like, all this I think is, well, I guess that's plastic, but this is all heatsink material here. It's a pretty heavy card. I think it's a few pounds. Definitely feels sturdy, which is nice. Doesn't feel like there's anything wrong with it that I can see. Has 4 DisplayPort 1.4s, no HDMI. That's sort of a bummer because I kind of like sometimes to hook up my computer in the living room to the TV, and without an HDMI port on it, I can do like I do have that adapter, that Club 3D adapter I bought like a year ago or whatever it was, that'll convert that to HDMI 2.1, but that adapter is a little flaky. Never did work all that well. But just to hook it up and use it in general, it'll be fine. It's just, and again, really not supposed to be doing a whole lot of gaming on this. But I can hook it up to, you know, I have a couple of 4K standard monitors in my office up here, and I can hook it up and do some gaming on that so we can try it. But of course, really the purpose of this card will be to make deepfakes with the 48 gigabytes of GDDR6. We can really get nuts with that. It's got a little over 10,700 CUDA cores. I will post more information about the specs here in just a second. I'm just kind of getting a feel for the card, but it seems like the fan doesn't feel bound up or anything. Should be good. I guess the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to swap out my Kingpin card for this one and give it a try with some of my deepfake models. That's going to be awesome. All right, give me a minute. So I pulled down a display driver uninstaller, and I've got NVIDIA's latest Quadro RTX driver for the A6000. It's a studio driver. They don't offer a game-ready driver for these cards, but they should still be able to play some games just fine. I've played games on studio drivers before, and so I'm in safe mode. Go ahead and run display driver uninstaller. Okay, thank you. I don't need this information. And we're going to tell it to go ahead and see, we're going to do a clean and shutdown, so it'll wipe off all the NVIDIA drivers that are currently on there, because those are for the GTX, or excuse me, the RTX 3000 series. We're going to wipe those drivers, and then I'll swap out the card and boot back up, and then install our, where the heck I put that, the RTX A6000 Quadro driver. So we'll be doing that here in just a second. That's the process. You just reboot into safe mode, run DDU, wipe your drivers, and go back into, or swap your card, go into Windows, install your new driver. Disable your network before you do all this, because otherwise Windows will try to auto-install the driver, and you want to be able to use whatever driver you want, not necessarily what Windows Update provides to you. So we're going to go ahead and do that here in a minute. So I got the Kingpin uninstalled, radiator sitting over here. See that they're pretty comparably sized cards, but the Kingpin has a pretty beefy shroud, and we got the copper heatsink material. But here we've also got a very large amount of heatsink material. Like I said, this is a really pretty physically heavy card. It actually, well, actually the Kingpin still weighs more. I lied. But it's got the pump in there and all the other goodies, bigger fan, and of course the radiator and all the stuff that comes with that. I put the fans back in the box already, so we're down to point where we can probably try to install this card. And like I said, I'm going to have to take this little adapter and convert 2 8-pins to this proprietary 8-pin, which will connect up to the back of the card, and we should be able to get it up and running. But let's peel off some of this stuff right here. Always exciting, always the most fun part of playing with any video card is peeling off the plastic, right? Yeah, that's what's hot in the streets. Alright, I can get my nice fingerprints all over it. It's really shiny. Alright, let me put in the system here, get her fired up. Alrighty, so we are installed and up and running. I've got the little power splitter connector here running the 2 lines for my power supply. I don't currently need the 3rd one because the Kingpin required 3 8-pins. This takes 2 converted down into that proprietary 8-pin power connector for the back end of the card. So we're all hooked up on that, and it's working definitely. I've had some time to play around with it. I haven't tried any games yet, which we'll go ahead and do going forward here in a little bit, but I have been playing around with making deepfakes on it just to see like how much higher I could go with settings, and it is significantly greater than what I could do with a 3090. I don't think it's quite a linear progression, so like it's actually seems like I can actually kind of do more than double the batch size, which is kind of important. So like for those of you guys who have been watching like the deepfake tutorial I did on how batch sizes basically are however many faces are being compared per iteration of training, and like with the 3090 for example, on like the Patrick Stewart model I did, which is at 640 by 640 pixel resolution, that is currently the highest Deepfake lab will let you make a model, although supposedly you can like change it in the config files and actually increase that if you want, but at least as far as the software will currently let you go 640 by 640. And with all the settings enabled that I needed for the model to complete, like GAN and learning rate drop off, at the end to sharpen it up. The highest I could even set was like batch 2, which ain't great. But this card, I was doing like 8, 10. And yeah, it has twice the memory, but it seems like you can really, it's more than doubling of the amount of batch size they can do. So it's not really linear on like 1 gig of memory per batch or something like that. It's like as you go up, you could fit more into a gig or something, or it takes less memory the higher you go or something. I'm not really sure how that works, but like I say, it just seems like I'm able to go pretty crazy with it. The temperatures I'm getting in it are about 70 degrees or so. I have it sitting at about a 70% fan right now, and it, I mean, you can probably hear it. It's not super quiet, but blower fans like this never are super quiet. So I tried to touch it here. I was going to take off that stereo connector so we could look at it again, and I don't want to touch it. It's kind of hot, so maybe when it cools back down. But that said, I've got my system brought up here. I've got the driver installed and everything, and we'll look at some things from the computer itself now. Alrighty, I'm in the Windows environment, and you can see we've got our little GPU Z brought up to show us some of our specifications, but we've got our 10,752 CUDA cores, or as it calls them, shader cores, but same difference. Still running on Gen 4 PCI Express. Don't have any Gen 5 cards out yet, but the Z690 board I'm using does support that, so hopefully we'll see those soon. This was actually launched October 5th of 2020, but I think that's just when the particular, like the GA102 rather, GPU was launched, not necessarily when the A6000s came out. I'm not 100% sure when they launched, but I think they came out later than the 3090s. But regardless, supports DirectX 12, of course, supports resizable bar, all the goodies are supported. Resizable bar is enabled. Now it says the boost clock is 1800, but it must be able to boost higher than that because I've been seeing it going up over 1900. Memory clock 2000 megahertz. So it says GPU starts at 1410 rather and boosts to 1800, but I've definitely seen it going higher than that. So I think it, you know, just like with my kingpins and everything, they always boost higher than they say that the boost clock is. It's GDDR6, not GDDR6X. Samsung memory, which is nice. A 384-bit memory interface and about 48 gigabytes of our GDDR6. And just kind of rehash some of the same things here. The bandwidth 768 gigabytes per second, rather. This is error correcting memory, not like so like the 3090s don't support that, but like I say, Quadro cards, and then my AMD W6800 Pro supports error correction as well. It's kind of like a server memory versus regular desktop memory. And we've got 336 tensor cores and 84 RT cores. And I've kind of pulled up a 3090 spec sheet comparatively next to it, so we can kind of look at some of the same things on there. See, this actually, the A6000 has, I mean, it's not a huge difference, but it does have 752 versus 10,496 cores on a 3090. So it does have more cores, but it does, and I mean, according to this, you would think that the clocks are basically the same as well, but this one only uses a maximum of 300 watts, whereas this, although I don't know what it's going to say that they use for power, but as we know, the 3090s can just jump through the freaking roof. Well, this is saying 350, but you know, like my Kingpin was regularly jumping to 450, 500 watts being used during deepfake learning and so forth. So that's nice that they say that, but we know that the 3090s can use a lot of power. So depending on the conditions, but like they spike and jump really high power usage. Precision performance, so we got 38.7 teraflops of single, RT core performance, tensor performance. Does support NVIDIA NVLink, as we talked about as we looked at the connector. Just like the 3090s, you can do 2 of them at once. You can do systems with more than 2, but as far as I know, for deep learning at least for Deepfake Lab, I would never be able to use more than 2 on like the same model at the same time. So, and really, you'd have to build like a Threadripper Pro or something to have enough PCI Express slots to be able to put in that many cards. And then you'd also have to have a lot of money, which I don't have that kind of money. Just because I bought one of these doesn't mean I can buy 3 more and build a whole different system to put them in. NVIDIA Link bandwidth, 112.5 gigabytes per second bidirectional. So again, 300 watts uses of power, tells you what resolutions it supports, the one single 8-pin connector, but again, it's
it's a CPU connector. It's yeah, that's right. So like the K80 Tesla that I had, I found that if I just ran like a CPU connector to it, that works. So for some reason they use a CPU connector. That's what that connector does, is it converts the two 8 PCI Express connectors back into a CPU connector. I don't have an extra one coming off of my power supply because they're already in use on the motherboard. So I don't know why they do that for power delivery. I don't really understand the rationale in giving it a different connector, but there must be a reason for it. I just don't know what the hell it is. Let's see, encoding engines. Is it VR ready? Yeah, yes. Support software, virtual workstations, etc. GPU profile support, graphics APIs, and compute APIs. For anybody who's interested in this kind of stuff, this is all available directly on the NVIDIA website. You can just search for RTX A6000 and it will bring up the main sheet where you can click on their data sheet to get to the information about the card. MSRP on these I've seen kind of squirrely, but usually between like $4,500 and $5,500. I did not pay that much because I got it on eBay, but it was still a lot. It was $4,100 plus tax, which ended up being a little over $4,300. I did not have to pay for shipping, which was nice. And I've registered it on the PNY website, so I should have a warranty service. Something else I've looked into, so like we were talking about when I opened up the box here earlier, which was actually yesterday now, the stereo connector. So the stereo connector apparently allows for like older 3D DLP TVs and so forth. Like it's an old connector for like 3D glasses, which is sort of interesting. I don't know why that's a feature on a Quadro. I don't know what possible use that would really have today, but it's like a legacy feature, I guess, that they've brought forward. If somebody wants to comment in the comment section and correct me if I'm wrong, or if there's something else that it's more beneficial for, then great. But that's what I'm reading on these different sites, is that it seems like it's kind of a legacy feature that they still, for some reason, continue to add to the card. And the other thing that they have is the Quadro Sync. So there's two connectors actually next to each other. Again, I think I kind of showed you guys that when I was looking at it, but it was too hot to touch. But there's like a, this is not my card, but this is like on mine, there's like a connection right here, like underneath the number 3, and there's like the stereo, and then there's the Quadro Sync. Or maybe I have it backwards, but whatever. And that allows you to do more than 2 cards and have them all synchronized using one of these extra boards. And then apparently it's for outputting to like large numbers of monitors or clusters of monitors, and having different, like they use something called Mosaic, which allows you to display to a bunch of different displays and have it either all kind of, even using multiple GPUs to drive it, you could have, again, like in this picture, there's 9 images, or not, 9 displays, and have it all span across all of it and use the horsepower from all the GPUs to run that. Or you can have like clusters where it's like it's saying like, these are 1, these are 2, and these are 3 or something, where, or you could do like these as 1, these is 2, and these is 3, and have it set up different ways to display information on one set and a different set and a different set. Again, not something I'll be using it for, but apparently that is what Quadro Sync is used for. Again, if I'm misreading this or if someone wants to correct me, go ahead. It's not like it's a feature I've ever had any use for, and I'm certainly not going to be using it for making my deepfakes, but it is a, excuse me, it is an available feature on these Quadro cards. Otherwise, I think as we went over, they have the 4 DisplayPort 1.4 video connectors. I think that's mentioned. 1.4A. It does not have an HDMI, as I said. So like I said, if you want to hook it up to a TV, you're going to have to find an adapter or a cable that converts DP into HDMI. And with my TV downstairs, as I mentioned, that's HDMI 2.1, and the only adapter I'm aware of currently to convert DP to HDMI 2.1 is that Club 3D adapter, which is pretty sketchy. It doesn't do that great of a job. I should try it though with this and just see how it works. Like I said, the last time I used it was on my RTX Titan. The 3090 doesn't need it because it has native HDMI 2.1. So that is a down. Like if there's any downside, it's that this doesn't have a 2.1 port for HDMI. Okay, next up we'll go ahead and I guess look at some of the different settings I can run my deepfakes in for people who are interested in that kind of thing, to show the different rates of training. So give me 1 second. Alright, so first up, this is what I'm kind of screwing around with right now with Daenerys Targaryen from Game of Thrones, and the actress that I'm using to import onto her, which you guys may or may not be familiar with, is this is, I know this looks funny, this is like the random warp screen. Let me get back to the regular image of her. Okay, so this is Melina. I think it's pronounced Jurgens, but she's from Germany, and she is a motion caption actress that was in the game Hellblade. And there's not a ton of footage of her available, but I was trying to put her into the Hellblade 2 trailer, and I still will probably try to do that. There's a lot of weird lighting conditions in that, and a lot of, like, she's wearing face paint on the character Senua. If you guys played the Hellblade game, you'll be at least familiar with kind of how her face is painted up. And in the trailer from the second game that they're working on, she's got different face paint, but it seems like it's screwing with the ability for it to learn her face super well. So I don't know how well that's going to pan out. It's like it's kind of warping some of it and getting sort of weird results. But in general, there's not a ton of footage of her. I got all these from like award shows because she won some awards for the first game. So she's got some interviews, and like there was like I don't remember, it's in a BAFTA award. I don't remember what the heck it is, but some kind of award she was given for her voice acting role / motion capture work that she did in that game. But she did a nice job. If you guys have played that game at all, you'll know what I'm talking about. She did a nice job in it. But this is a 448 resolution whole face. The dims are higher than stock, than default, but not super high. But it's LIE UDT model, and again 448 resolution, and I'm running it at batch 16 on this card. Now on my 3090, I think the most I was able to do is 6 or 8. I think it was 6. And so on this one, I'm at 16, so more than twice the batch size. Now it's not fast. Like it's at like about 1. And partially why it's slowing down right now is because I'm recording the video and I'm doing this at the same time. So this is taxing my CPU pretty heavily to probably do both these at once. Normally it's getting, as you can see, more like 2.7 or 2700 milliseconds per iteration, which still isn't amazing, but it's faster than this. But you can see like it's learned Daenerys pretty well, and it's doing an okay job. This is still a little early again. Like this is only at about 260,000 iterations, and I was training this mostly on my 3090 until I got this card yesterday and started using it to test it. So that's Daenerys Targaryen. This is the reason I'm screwing around with this. For one thing, like I said, I was trying to put her in the Hellblade's trailer, but also because I want to screw around with like low lighting and torchlight scenarios. And there's a lot of stuff from Game of Thrones, in dungeon scenes, or in this case, we're talking about like this is the scene where Daenerys takes the dragon egg and puts it like in this burning sconce, and then she doesn't burn her hands, and her little handmaiden comes in and goes, "Oh, you've hurt yourself," but she hasn't. And there's a lot of like candlelight going on, and then there's like the fire in the little, again, like the little brazier, I guess is what you would call it, where she's putting the egg. And so like there's like light flickering off of her face, but there's dark and light constantly kind of playing, and I want to see how well that can transfer to a deepfake. So that's what this one's for. Again, Jurgens happens to be who I was working with for the other footage, and I think she actually looks a bit like the same. I'm drawing a blank as to what this actress's name is. Daenerys. I feel like a fucking moron, but whatever. The actress who plays Daenerys, I think that they have at least sort of a similar bone structure and whatnot. So good one to choose for that. We're gonna see how that plays out. But this is again 448, 350 dims, slightly higher on everything than normal, and still able to crank it up to 16 batch size. So that's the first one I'll look at. And then we'll look at like a 512, and then I have that 640 Patrick Stewart model, so we'll look at that here in a second. All right, this is Lawrence Fishburne. I was sort of working on putting him into this music video for this group called Pentatonics. One of the people I work with had asked me to do that, and so I'd sort of been screwing around with it. But anyways, this is a 512 model at default dimensions. This is the one I was using for Lawrence anyway. And I just threw it on here and set it back to default random warp, so we can see kind of how fast it can do. Now this is again at batch 16 on a 512 model. But again, the dimensions are lower. So that 448 with higher dimensions is using as much or more VRAM as this slightly higher resolution model with lower dimensions. So for those of you who have been watching the tutorial and so forth, more dimensions, it'll learn more details of the face more easily. Probably helps a little bit with like facial expressions and so forth. Less dimensions, it'll have more trouble doing that. But you can, again, at a higher resolution, it might be sharper. So it might be sharper and less smooth at 512 than I'll get with that 448, but higher dims. So like there's trade-offs that I was having to make because I was using the 3090, and the 3090 was running out of VRAM too quickly for a lot of these higher res models like this. Now this card, I shouldn't have that problem to speak of. And if I ever get a second one and run an NVLink, I won't have any problems with VRAM for the foreseeable future. I mean, there's always faster stuff. There will always be faster stuff coming down the pike, but so, like earlier when I said it wasn't particularly fast, what I should have said was it's not fast in the sense that, like, yeah, they're taking like 3 seconds plus per iteration, but at this batch size, that's a good speed. When I was training with the 3090, I did like a 1-per-1 before I swapped the cards out, so I tried training some of these things in the 3090 and kind of mentally marked what the speeds were like, and then I swapped in the A6000 and ran it at the same settings to see if it would be faster, slower, about the same. Because the A6000 has regular, like say GDDR6, not 6X memory. The clocks on it are slower than the Kingpin, because the Kingpin regularly jumps over 2000 megahertz all the time. This one, as we can see, hasn't been doing that. Like I got my hardware monitor up here. That's one thing that's cool, is that this actually runs with EVGA precision. You can control the fans and everything with it, so I'll just keep that installed. That's handy. But the clocks have been capping out at 1905 on this card, at least it's stock. It does look like you could at least try to overclock it, so I may screw around with that eventually, but at least that's so I've got the fan at 76%, and the temp is in the high 60s for the most part. It might get just above 70 once in a while. But what was I saying about? Oh yeah, so like for the one-to-one training, the A6000 is actually slightly faster, like really, really marginally. It's basically 1-to-1, but it might be like 2 to 5% faster on some situations. Like I tried that one with Melina Jurgens, and it was like the speed I was getting at batch 6 was like 900 millisecond per iteration on the 3090, and on the A6000 it was like 875. So really, really marginal. That could be just an environmental difference in Windows. I might have changed something, or it could be the drivers that make the difference too, because this card uses like their studio drivers versus the the game ready driver from the RTX 3090. I never did try putting studio drivers on that. That might have helped. I don't know. I don't think it would have made that big of a difference. So, but just like I say, this card does have slightly more CUDA cores too. So even though the memory is slower, it has a different driver and it has more cores. Again, not a ton more, but that might even account for the difference right there. So, so that's a 512 model, default dimensions. That's the one I used for the video I did with Lawrence in the Equalizer film as Denzel. Now this is me setting it back to just random warp. That's why it doesn't look very sharp, but I can re-enable GAN later and pick it back up. It's just doing it for the sake of testing it in this video. So this is part of the problem why I haven't really gone too far with this. Is it's hard to I haven't been able to find much footage of Lawrence like kind of looking up like this, and then there's certain scenes where this guy is he's got his mouth wide open because he's like a beatboxer. He doesn't actually sing much in the video. The other people do more of the lyrics, but like there's wide open mouth scenes where he's singing, and it's like Lawrence's teeth never got really good definition on the lower jaw for some reason. I don't really understand why it was having a hard time learning that. I give it a lot of good source material and it still wasn't working right. So anyways, that's why I didn't ever finish Pentatonics, as I was having some weird issues with that. But so that's again a 16 batch. I probably could go a little higher even, honestly. I could probably go to like 18, maybe 20, but I'm pretty close to the point where I'd be running out of memory again. But like I said, that's way higher than I was able to do with the 3090, which was running at like, I think the highest I could do on random warp on these at this resolution was 6, maybe 7. And so this is again vastly increasing the batch size I'm able to train at. So we'll do one more. We'll do the 640 from Patrick Stewart, and then I will go ahead and we'll try some games. All right, so we got Patrick Stewart here as Agent Smith. I was kind of screwing around with the scene where, excuse me, when Smith converts the Oracle into another Smith and gains quote unquote the eyes of they call it eyes of the Oracle, when he starts doing the little laughing scenes. It kind of goes a little nuts. This is actually, I forgot I turned on GAN last night on this again just to see kind of how well it would sharpen up. I backed up my random warp model, so I can always roll back if I don't think it's doing a good job. But I only ran it for like 10 minutes. But you can see this is 640 res, default dims once again. Yeah, I see. This is like the laughing Smith scene. And so 640 res, default dims, but I set this to batch 10. You know, I can run this on the 3090. This can run at 2. That's it. 2. This is crazy. So as you can see, like I was mentioning, the amount of memory, you would think that, you know, maybe I could have done like 5 or 6, but no, I'm doing 10. So it's not like a linear 1-to-1 amount of increase in batch size. When you double up on your memory, you get more than 2 times, evidently. Look at this. Some of it looks like crap, I know. Like I say, I just started it. It'll have to kind of learn Smith and again learn Patrick and GAN if it's going to look it or not. I don't know. Again, pretty slow rates of training, but that's again partly because I'm recording while I'm doing this, so forgive it, you know. But again, I could never even enable anywhere near this before. So instead of doing something like this, what I could do is either go back and do a 512, but up the dimensions significantly to the point where I could still train it at a good batch size, or I could even do 640 like this, but set the dimensions up, you know, above default anyway, and still keep a fairly good batch size training. Now, the other thing I was wanting to screw around with, I think I was mentioning, is like 640 is the maximum that Deepfake Lab will currently allow you to choose as a resolution. But someone was telling me that you can just go into one of the config files and change like the maximum allowed and do like a 768, which I think would be, well, nobody, I don't think anybody's done it, so it'd be interesting to try it. There's plenty of people with way better hardware than this. I don't see, like, more cards, you know, like the A6000 is one of the best cards you can get for deepfake making. The best cards are probably the A100, which have 40 gigs, or I think they make an 80 gig version of it. In fact, I'm pretty sure that they do. And those have high bandwidth memory too, instead of GDDR6. So the memory is much faster. I think they have comparable amount of CUDA cores and whatnot, same power requirements and so forth, but they're Tesla cards and they have passive cooling, so you'd have to either put them in like a, you know, a fairly HVAC chilled environment, or modify the cooling in some fashion, like put an AIO on it or something like that. But yeah, those are like at least 10 grand a piece for one of those cards. But theoretically, if you had 2 of them, you know, in NVLink, you could do up to 160 gigs of HBM2 if you had 2 of the 80 gig models, and, you know, God knows what insane settings you could do with something like that, but you could do a 768 model on those, I'm sure, all day. The other type of model, AMP, which I haven't screwed around with personally, I understand uses a lot of VRAM and requires really high dimensions, and so, you know, for an AMP model, you might want to do, like, with this particular card at least, you might want to do like 448 with really high dems, or I don't know, I'll have to ask some of the people who have, you know, from the Deepfake Lab Discord server, there's a couple of them that I'm in, you know, like what they recommend if I ever try to do that, which I'm sure I'll try to do AMP here eventually. I'd like to go back and do Patrick Stewart, but with an AMP model, and actually I'd like to do a head model of him, where like a live head model of Patrick, so I could be him in my, you know, like in a live video. Since I'm bald anyway, I think it'd look kind of funny. I can't do his voice though. Anyways, so that's some examples of Deepfake Lab training at different resolutions and different settings, but just giving an idea of how kind of crazy high you can go with the batch size on this compared to a 3090. And then, like I say, if you start getting really nuts and get 2 of them or something else, you know, get an A100 or something, you can really get insane with the settings. But that said, I'm going to try some games for fun, even though this isn't a gaming card and it's obviously not for that. I don't really have any kind of workstation applications aside from this that I use this machine for, really. So if anybody has a program that they want me to test or benchmark something else that I normally wouldn't think to use it on, then ask in the comment section and I can do that. But assuming it's not like really expensive software or something, but I know a lot of these are used for like Blender or other like 3D rendering applications, and I don't have any experience with those. I don't use them. So that said, we're gonna go ahead and move on here to the next stage of our video. All right, so we should be able to run one of these. I was having a problem here for a minute. Like this just wouldn't even load. Like it was taking forever. It still took it a really long time. I don't know what the deal is, but it's possible that you know, again, this is not an NVIDIA game ready driver, and maybe it was stuck scanning my system. Like it couldn't figure out what the video card was. So that's certainly possible that this is an unsupported card and may have issues running this. But I'm gonna go ahead and run like Time Spy Extreme and Port Royal probably. We'll call it good for benchmarks. Then we'll run like a game or two and we'll call it good. Let's see if this will even run. No demo. Good. I shut off my the efficiency cores on the 12900K because I was having some weird issues with Deepfake Lab, like crashing out periodically when those were on. It was some kind of I think the clock scheduler for that chip still isn't great for some things, and so I shut it off and it's been working better. But we'll see. Now it's still collecting system information, so this might take in a minute. Maybe what I'll do is give you a second here. I'll load it up once it's come back up. It took a really long time to load. It took like 3-4 minutes. I don't really understand why it's taking it so long to load different portions of these tests. It's like I say, it's hanging at the collecting system information portion, which is sort of strange. But it's working. I did goof around in some games with it already, and I bought that new game Last Ark that just came out. I've only been able to play that for a short period of time because now the queues to get into it are too long, and it takes like an hour to get into the game. So I'm not worrying about that one at the moment. But I did screw around in Cyberpunk for a little bit, and it definitely runs that comparatively with my 3090. Probably a little bit slower than the 3090 for some of that stuff. And again, the drivers are probably largely to blame with that. You know, it's not really optimized to play games. It's for professional applications. At least didn't hang forever at between tests. That would be really annoying if it was going to take it a long time to load each one of them up. I guess once this finishes running here, I can go on the 3D Mark site and we can compare this to like the last time I ran it on my 3090 and we can see how well it does. I'll be back here in a second. I'm not going to sit here and watch this, let this whole thing play through. It takes too long. Give me a second. Oh, apparently I'm legendary. I unlocked an achievement, it says. 8520 on Time Spy Extreme. That's on stock settings. I didn't overclock anything. Let me see if we can compare online. Oh, but apparently a premium gaming PC from 2 years ago was faster than that, so let me see. Well, I mean, oh, that was on a Threadripper. So actually, yeah, that wasn't much faster than the Threadripper with the W6800 in it, so nothing real amazing there, but let me see if I can find... Did that load? Alright, so this is the one I just did, and then let's look for... Oh, okay, yeah, like I said, the 3090 definitely significantly ran it faster, which doesn't really surprise me. Like I said, the drivers just aren't the same, and it doesn't have as fast a memory, the clocks and everything. I don't know how far it was boosting. Let's see if we can let's see here. I know you can go back here and change. I don't know. It's like it didn't even monitor a bunch of stuff. Normally you'd have like the different like the CPU temps and all that stuff in here. For some reason, it didn't even graph any of that stuff. That's kind of strange. It's behaving sort of strangely. But like I say, not really surprised that the Kingpin smoked it. But there again, the Kingpin, it's reading this as 1410, but as we saw earlier, it actually can boost up to like 1900 something. So I don't know if it was actually boosting or not, because again, this is sort of acting kind of strange today with this benchmark. Like it's not loading correctly and not doing certain things. So I don't know. But anyways, it ran it like you could game on that for sure. It just wasn't running it at any kind of insane speed. But like going back here to the results, it was saying that so I had a premium gaming PC for 2 years ago, supposedly with the 3090 in there. Wonder if what the highest score anybody has got was. Oh, well, that's with dual 2080 Ti's and SLI. It says in a 3950X. Interesting. Okay, I will run Port Royal just for the fun of it, just to see how it can handle that, and then we'll go ahead and try like Cyberpunk, and then we'll probably call it good. So give me 1 second here. We'll do that. All right. Once again, it took it like 3-4 minutes to even start loading this. I don't really know what's going on with these ridiculous load times. It wasn't like this before, so something's going on with, again, I think it just something to do with detecting that card on that driver or whatever the heck it is. It's kind of weird, but whatever. See what it can do here on Port Royal. And this seems kind of comparable to what I'm used to seeing. You can definitely game on it. Like I say, it may not be intended for that purpose, but it's nice to have the card I wanted for making deepfakes, and also still be able to play games when they come out, because I was a little concerned. I mean, I figured it'd be fine, but like I said, I was just a little bit concerned that some games might kind of bug out or do weird things. Like again, I kind of want to play Lost Ark. Some of the guys from work are playing it, and it's like, would it run or would it not run? But it seems to be fine. Really, the card runs at pretty good temperatures. It's like it's been capping out around 70 degrees. That's the fan, as I think I showed earlier, that the fan was at about 70%, 72%. And so that's not too bad of a noise to temperature ratio, really. It's performing quite admirably. This test doesn't take that long, so I'll just let it run through here. Some people have sort of complained in the past that they'd prefer to watch me run through these benchmarks instead of just showing the results. So I'm recording this just with OBS, and so the results would be slightly higher, again, if I was using like a capture card PC or something. Oh, getting hungry, guys. Alrighty. Now we'll compare this online as well. Again, legendary. Okay. That seems like a pretty good score. It seems like, yeah, this kind of sounds like 14,000-ish, I think, is what I was getting before. But let me see here. Port Royal. Yeah, like 13,000 something last time. I remember when I did like the hybrid SLI, it got like 26,273.22. That was with dual 3090 hybrid 4013 cards. But anyways, you can see again pretty much the same kind of scenario as last time, where the 3090 is still beating this out because of higher clock speeds and faster memory. I'm sure it's got a lot to do with it, because again, this is just GDDR6 versus GDDR6X, and it's not like this test is using the extra video memory. I'm sure it's not even coming close to use the 24 gigs in the 3090 offers. So, wrong button. I am kind of curious. Again, like it's just showing frame rate monitoring. It's not showing anything but the frame rate, which is sort of weird. I kind of wonder if monitoring software is having a hard time reading from that card. Sort of weird. Oh, keep clicking the wrong thing. Okay, I guess I'll load up blah blah blah, Cyberpunk, and we'll see how that does, because that's pretty much the game to test things on right now. I guess I don't have anything that's like more system intensive than that, and I can run an overlay in that, and we'll try some different DLSS options and see how it runs, and then we'll probably call it good for the video. So give me one sec. Alrighty. Now we're playing in 4K, but of course we're playing with DLSS. This is on auto, and the GPU is getting basically 98-99% utilization all the time, running at about 65 degrees. You can see the clock kind of jumping around. Oh, the high 1700 to low 1800 megahertz range. CPU, all cores are pretty much running at about 4.9 gigahertz. That's the 12900K, but with efficiency cores disabled, because again I was having some squirrely issues with Deepfake Lab, and the clock scheduler was kind of causing it to crash periodically. Pretty good temperatures we're getting. Hanging in the 60s mostly for the core activity for temperatures. This is a pretty high populous area, lots of people, lots of buildings. Oh, what's in here? Interesting. Alright, let's fiddle with the other options. Now this is everything on the maximum settings, like Psycho, ray tracing. We've got everything here. Oh, I guess I was wrong. This is, hold on, let's put that to Psycho. I thought I already had that all maxed out. Let's see. No real appreciable difference. Oh god. Notice like there's nobody nearby me for some reason. Like they still haven't fixed a lot of the stuff in this game. Like, why is there nobody near me? Everybody's going in the opposite direction. They're farther away. Like you have to catch up to people almost. I'm still noticing like pop-in issues with textures and stuff in this game, or with people. Not so much right now, but like yesterday I was playing around with it. Still has. I don't know. Hopefully they're gonna have an update for it pretty soon. I thought they were supposed to have something out here any time now. Oh, hello. Okay. Now I will try changing DLSS modes. So we'll go to quality, which as I recall is not going to run very well. Yeah, like 33. I personally can't really tell the difference that much between one DLSS mode and the next. I mean, you start doing like the ultra performance ones, yeah, they don't look as good, but auto I think looks fine and gets a good frame rate. This is, I guess this all looks pretty nice, but there again, it's just not running that great in the 30s. Try doing balance. Not much better, really. Low 40s. Run! I haven't really played this game much in a while. I never did even finish it. I just kind of didn't enjoy the story that much, and as towards the end, I got to the point where I didn't care if I completed it. It's too bad. It's kind of a cool game, but just didn't hold my interest towards the end. All right, let's try the next version here. Hopefully, after they do some updates to it and fix all the bugs or whatever they're gonna do, maybe that will make it more better. Alright, now we're seeing around 50. Got really shiny skin for some reason. I wonder if they all look like that. No, it's just her, I guess. No, they all kind of have this weird shiny skin texture thing going on. I kind of wonder... See, he does too. It's like he looks like he's covered in plastic or something. They all kind of look like that. I don't know if that's because that might be like a texture issue again with this driver. That's sort of weird. I don't think I remember it doing that before. And we'll do ultra performance. Oh, now we're getting 75. Alright. They still look really weird. I don't know if that's something to do with, see, everything looks like it's made out of plastic. At least the cars don't look coated in that shit. And then, of course, we can shut DLSS off and the game will barely run. Let's do that. It's too bad it's not about video memory. Like, if that was the only limitation, I'd have that covered. It might be a DLSS thing, because you notice they don't really look like that now. I mean, I know it ain't running good, but... Let me go back to that area and just see if it was like a lighting issue, like right here specifically. Yeah, maybe. They all kind of look plasticky again. It's like right here. They look like they're made out of plastic. Like a reflection issue or something. Alright, well, interesting enough. I wouldn't want to play without DLSS just yet, or FSR, I guess. Wonder if that works. Try something. Let's see. I guess it won't let me enable those. Let's just shut ray tracing off and then go back to like auto on this, see how well it runs. That's a lot smoother. 75. Let's put it on like a low setting or something. I guess it's just medium, ultra, psycho, and off. And medium. That still runs pretty well. Close to 60 frames a second. I haven't tried overclocking this card. I think you can do that, but oh, that was sort of weird. I don't know if you saw that, but the person sitting down, it was like they popped. Yeah, like they're kind of randomly. What is wrong with you? Stop doing that. All right. Well, guys, I think that's probably what we're going to call the video good. Like I say, pretty expensive card for gaming, but if you want to use it for what it's intended for, which is workstation applications, obviously it's quite capable of handling Deepfake Lab, quite capable of deep learning. I don't, again, really use a lot of programs that like 3D professionals would use. Like I don't use Blender, or I don't use any of that, like Maya or 3ds Max or any of that sort of thing to like render 3D characters. So I can't really comment on how well the card would handle those things. I'm sure there's videos out there that cover that information. I just personally have never used those programs and don't have any use for them in what I'm doing currently. Maybe one day I'll get into it, I don't know. But anyways, if you guys have any questions, ask in the comment section below. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you liked the channel, give it a subscription. I'll be putting out more deepfakes here in the near future. Appreciate you guys watching, and have a great rest of your weekend. Later.